If you're moving to the Pacific Northwest and if you're a city person, there's a good chance you've already narrowed it down to 2 cities and gotten stuck there. Many will tell you the same thing. Seattle is the big one and Portland's the cheaper one. And while that's true, it's much more nuanced than that. So we're going to look at a bunch of different information. For example, Portland has no income tax and Oregon's tops out near 10%, but Oregon has no sales tax and Washington's is close to 10%. Seattle pays better, Portland costs less. Those 4 facts pull against each other, and depending on what you earn, they flip around which city might make you better off, and it could be by thousands of dollars a year. But wherever you land within that, or whatever that information means to you, that might not give you the answer either, as not everything in life is necessarily about money. So this isn't going to be a highlight reel about either place, but we're going to go 6 rounds. We're going to pit the cities against each other. We're going to choose a winner for each round, and then we'll see if there's a clear answer as to which city is the better one to move to in the end. One thing before we get into round 1, if you're in the research phase for a move to Portland, I'd put together a relocation guide with information about neighborhoods and the city and the suburbs, information about understanding the Portland market and a relocation checklist and questions to ask and a lot more. So it's linked below in the description. Go ahead and download it. It's free. So check it out and I think you'll find it helpful. Okay, let's get into it. Round 1 is what your money buys for housing. The median sale price in Seattle is about $825,000 right now. And in Portland, I know it's about $555,000. The Portland Metro is in the mid 500s. That's nearly $300,000 spread between the two. And the home prices are about 49% higher in Seattle than they are in Portland. At today's interest rates, that works out to about $1,400 a month in principal and interest before you look at taxes and insurance. So in practice in Seattle, that median price might buy you a modest 3-bedroom in Beacon Hill or a townhome in Ballard. In Portland, the same money might buy you a 1920s Craftsman on a nice lot in Alberta Arts District or Woodstock or Mount Tabor with a front porch and a garage. If you're renting first, apartments.com says that the average Seattle rents are about 38.5% higher than in Portland right now. So whether you're looking to buy or rent, Portland is definitely the less expensive option. So we're going to go into round 1 to Portland for sure, and it's not really even particularly close. Okay, round 2, we're going to look at income and jobs and the economy. And really, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. Seattle takes this one pretty easily. You know, Seattle is the base for Amazon and Microsoft and a sizable tech economy, several times larger than Portland's. And the pay reflects that. The median income in Seattle is about $110,000 right now, whereas in Portland, it's about $85,000. That's a difference of about 29%. Portland has some heavyweights too, like Nike and Columbia and Adidas North America and Intel, but it doesn't produce the same sort of GDP as the Seattle region does. In fact, the Bellevue, Tacoma, Seattle region produces nearly 3 times the GDP as the Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough region does. So for overall economic opportunity and income, Seattle wins. Round 3. Taxes. This is sometimes a pretty misunderstood point, so let's get into it. Washington has no state income tax, but Oregon has one of the highest state income taxes in the country, with 4 brackets topping out at 9.9%, and that top range starts around $125,000. On the flip side, Oregon has no sales tax, nothing or on anything. So every time you buy a $5 cup of coffee, for example, it's just $5. It's pretty awesome just as a small quality of life sort of thing, and it really makes things a lot easier. Washington sales tax runs between 6.5 and 10.6% depending on the area. So who wins really depends on what you earn and how much you spend. At $100,000 of household income, Washington is going to save you around $7,000 to $8,000 a year, not looking at any sort of deductions or anything like that. So like I said, Washington also hands back a chunk of those savings every time you make a purchase on a car, a couch, or a laptop, or a coffee, or a meal. So at $200,000 of income. Washington's edge is roughly $14,000 to $16,000 a year, and the sales tax is very unlikely to close the gap on that one. One thing that I do think is important to know, when you sell a home in Washington, they do have an excise tax on home sales, and that does not exist in Oregon. They have four brackets, so if you are selling at a median priced home in Seattle, that would run you over 1% of the cost of the home, and it's ultimately going to cost you right around $9,000. That doesn't happen every year, but it's still worth knowing about and accounting for. So really netting it out here, it kind of depends on your income and again, how much purchasing you do every year. It could really go in either direction. But overall, I think I'm going to lean a little bit towards the Seattle, Washington situation, especially for higher income earners. So round 4, we're going to get off the financial theme here for a bit and get into the traffic situation. Seattle consistently ranks much worse than Portland does in terms of delays for traffic. On inrix.com, where you can search city's global traffic scorecard, Seattle ranks as the 22nd worst city in the world, and Portland only ranks 113th. That website notes that Portland drivers lose about 41 hours to congestion a year, whereas Seattle loses about 68 hours to congestion. You know, Seattle sits on a narrow strip of land between a lake and the Sound with bridges as choke points, so if something goes wrong, everything can go wrong for its drivers. Portland is generally a little bit flatter and more gridded and has less bottlenecks overall, although we also have those too. So really both cities don't rank really well for congestion nationally. Seattle is towards the top of the list at 10th, and Portland is at 25th nationally. On a personal level, I have much more experience with Portland. Obviously, this is where I live. I'll say it's not great, but it's not terrible either. I've lived in terrible, and I know what that looks like. The times that I have been up to Seattle in the last several years, I will say it's pretty noticeably worse, and I've had some pretty big headaches trying to get to or through Seattle. So Portland's a pretty clear winner here based on that sort of data, and even my own personal experience backs that up. Okay, round 5, let's get into the weather. Obviously, they're pretty similar, but Portland gets an average rainfall of about 36 to 40 inches a year, and Seattle has an average rainfall of 39 inches a year, according to the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration's data. So they really are about even. Seattle averages a bit more sunny days per year at 152, and it's a 144 for Portland. I will say, in my experience, the rainfall isn't totally what wears people down. It's really more of the darkness that we get into the winter. Seattle is 140 miles north of Portland, and in December, that means the sun sets earlier. On the winter solstice, Portland gets about 17 more minutes of daylight than Seattle. In the summer, Portland is about 3 to 5 degrees warmer than Seattle. With the warming weather that we're all experiencing worldwide, we are getting some really hot days here that we didn't usually get so much back in the day. So Seattle's having a little bit more comfortable summers overall. Average high temps in Portland in July and August are 80 to 82 degrees, and in Seattle it's 75 to 79 degrees. Overall, I'm going to give the slight edge here to Seattle, given the global warming that we're experiencing, with slightly more sunny days and cooler temps in the summer. Especially in the future, that might mean more, but don't discount Portland's extra light in the winter. I do think that's meaningful. So again, this is a little bit beauty in the eye of the beholder. If you like warmer summers and a little bit of extra light in the winter, you know, Portland might be the winner for you. Okay, round 6, we're going to look at the culture and quality of life. Seattle is a major American city, of course, with international flights out of SeaTac, world-class arts, professional sports teams in just about every league, and the density and momentum that come with all of that. Whereas Portland is really a kind of a small town wearing city's clothes. We have 2.5 million people here in the metro area, but it runs more on neighborhoods, and you get your kind of like coffee shop and bar and butcher, and you see the same people at all of them. The food scene punches far above its weight in population, in my opinion, and according to all the awards that I see, it wins, and it's got trailheads in town and nearby, and we've got the coast and Mount Hood and all that, so we got great nature too. Both cities really have had some difficulties lately with visible homelessness and public drug use. So if anyone's telling you that one has it more under control than the other, I think that that's probably someone trying to sell you something. They've both had their problems, but I know in Portland that has been getting better. So ultimately, I think this round kind of comes down to what you prefer. If you like bigger cities and all that comes with that, then I think Seattle's your winner. If you prefer smaller cities and all the advantages that come with that, then I think you would really prefer Portland. So I'll really ultimately leave it up to you to make a decision on this one. But since this is my video and I'm doing the scoring here, I'm going to go with Portland. I'm originally from the Chicago area, so I know all about big cities, and I love Chicago and all that comes with it, but it also has so many problems that come with it too, like the parking and the traffic and more crime and all that sort of stuff. And so ultimately, I really love Portland's size. I think it's kind of the perfect size where it's big enough to have a lot of culture, but small enough to have a better quality of life than the bigger cities. So there you go. After 6 rounds, I think we have a 3-3 tie, honestly. Portland won with what your money will buy for housing, on traffic, and the culture and quality of life categories. Seattle won for the jobs, income, economy, taxes, and the weather categories. Depending on how you see some of this, obviously that might give you a clear winner for Portland or Seattle. Either way, I do think it's really close. Both cities are really just fantastic places, and the world is much more interesting when people have different opinions. We're not all here to make the same decision. So if you want to talk specifics about your situation, you can book a call through a link I have in the description or comment below, or just reach out. I'm always happy to help. Also, if you choose Seattle here, I'd be happy to refer you to a great agent up into the Seattle area. Of course, if you do decide on Portland, I'd love to help you make that transition. Okay, I'm Andy Harris with Forest Real Estate, brokered by eXp Realty. If this helped, please subscribe. I break down the market on a monthly basis and produce videos just like this on a weekly basis. So please check it out, and don't forget to grab my relocation guide that I have for you if you are interested. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.